This meeting is being live streamed. Got it. Okay. Awesome. So we are live at 5. Hello, everyone. If you are getting to join us, it is good to see you guys here virtually. I will go ahead and say that we've got some pretty cool stuff coming up tonight, as usual, including drawing for the winner of the $100 Amazon gift card for attendance as of last month. So let me make sure that I'm muted here. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, we'll give everyone just a few seconds to hop on with us and we will get started. Okay, looks like everything looks good. We've got Regina with us. Hey, Regina. Yeah, apologies in advance for this angle of the underside of my chin. I am on my iPad. I was telling Lindsay and I can't adjust it. This is the only way that I can have it. So just have fun with that to everyone. Lindsay, have you had a good week so far?
Gosh, it just, yeah. So like everything has been blurring together because we're in like such a crazy transition time right now. We're, you know, with moving and with just like work and everything, things are just like flowing constantly. So like my Saturday could feel like a Tuesday.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, like it's been it's been good in the sense that everyone is healthy. Everyone is like generally happy. We all are very stressed out. And yeah, like, you know, there's no like crazy crisis or family situation. So we are feeling very grateful. And then also just being mindful that, you know, the season that we're going through is short term. So we just have to bear down and make the best of it. And, you know, packing and all of us in that confined space and going through like a big transition just is stressful and yet exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine. And for those of you guys that might have forgotten or weren't here that night, they're moving. That was implied. So, but yeah, that's a big transition for you guys. And I'm so glad that you can still join us virtually. That'll be awesome. I'm so glad.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Hey, Shay, Bree, Sunny, James, Regina. And Gabe and Danica. Okay, we got a great crowd. So since we're all here, I bet I just put in the chat. So as you guys know, we fell behind a little bit on announcing the winner of the $100 Amazon gift card. That's what we're giving away this month, based off of attendance for last month. So I know that's kind of confusing. We should have done this at the beginning of the month, just pretend like it's the first, but this is for those of you that attended in August. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll do our wheel as we always do. Oh, and Lindsay, I need to make you a co-host, so I will do that as well. Oh, share content. There we go. Okay, y'all have to let me know if this is like, oh, whoops, I did a screen recording. Stop, hold on. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so then screen sharing, here we go. Okay. Do you guys see the green and yellow wheel? That's what you're supposed to be seeing right now. I want to make sure that you do. Oh, Glenda, join us. Hey,
Yep,
looks good?
looks great.
Awesome. Okay, let's do it. Wow, it's still going. Oh, it's Andrea. So she has not tuned in tonight, but I will definitely let her know tomorrow when I see her. Again, for those of you that might have just hopped on, for every time that you attended in the month of August, I put your name one time into this random generator and it spins around and picks someone at random. And again, your names are all in there for as many times as you attended. So that is how it picks the winner. So yay, good job, Andrea. That is awesome. Now I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, that was easy. So that is all the announcements that I have. Oh, here's one more for you guys. I can't believe it's this time of year already, but we're going to be doing Christmas lists soon. Everyone's favorite part of the year. For those of you that are maybe new or have not participated, every youth that is involved with us we buy them presents. Well, it's really a church. The church has a $100 stipend for each youth, and you get to fill out a list that you get to share what you want for Christmas for you and your children. And then the church goes out and purchases some of those items on the list. So it's pretty cool. Just got you guys be aware that when you come up to the drop-in center, you probably will need to fill one of those out. And they're due at the 1st of November. So November 1st is the cutoff date. So just make sure you do it before then. So, okay, I have talked enough, Lindsay. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Awesome. Okay. Well, there's no PowerPoint, there's no like slide or anything tonight. We're just talking. So last week, we had like a much smaller group last week, but last week Josh was on and he talked about sort of like his health journey, and he's talking about physical health. And so I'm going to do the same thing tonight and also talk about physical and mental health and sort of my progression through that. And really this is just to share my story and maybe get you thinking about, if you have any like mental health goals or physical health goals or just well-being in general, just to get you thinking about, okay, so maybe some of those symptoms that might be associated with if you're feeling low or you're feeling burnt out or you're just not feeling like your best self, there's some symptoms that are assigned to that. And so being able to recognize those and then also tips on how to overcome them. Okay, so I will share with you first off, sort of like my physical health journey, and I've always been like pretty like health conscious. Like even like growing up, I was pretty health conscious, but I've also gone through some pretty hard times. And when I was 30, I found myself in a situation. Well, I didn't find myself. I created a situation, I created a life where it was very filled. We had five kids at the time in foster care, and all 5 kids were under 8 years old. And I was working like a pretty intense job, and I was 30 years old. So I was 30 years old, had 5 kids under the age of 8, and working like a really like intense corporate job. And so I was obviously very stressed. I was like super, super stressed. And I got to a point where I didn't even realize like how stressed I was. I think that's like one of like the first lesson. It's like whenever you're in a high stress situation, it's usually like a slow creep. Like you start to add on and you start to add on, and before you know it, you feel very overwhelmed. And that's really the point that I got. And the way that I dealt with that is I would isolate myself. So I'm an introverted person just in general. And so I was finding myself drawing away from my family quite a bit. Like I would go into my own space or my own room just to like shut out and ignore kind of like the reality of the situation. And really what that was doing is I was focusing on work, or I was trying to decompress. And so usually in a high stress situation, we sort of revert back to our comfort zone. And so I felt at that time like I was failing at being a mom or being a wife or taking care of my home. And so I would go and shut myself off to the world where I could either focus on work, or I could like zone out and like watch TV, or just be by myself so I could have a moment just to like recompose myself. And so that's like a really strong sign of, for me, depression and anxiety. And the other symptom that I was ignoring is how badly I felt about my body. So at that point, I had gained and have since lost about between 30 and 40 pounds. And so I'm kind of a tall girl anyway. And so it was like a really easy for me to sort of like ignore that, because I was like, well, you know, I'm sort of like athletic build and I'm tall. And so, you know, 30, 40 pounds, you know, that's nothing. But really inside, I was miserable. And so I found myself not looking in the mirror. I felt very, like I didn't feel very confident, and that affected my relationships in my life. It also affected my work performance because I didn't feel like my best self. And that's not to say that you can't feel like your best self at any size. For me, I knew that I was avoiding dealing with my mental pressures, my stress. And the way that I was doing that was I was eating more, I was making unhealthy choices, I was not being active, and I was also drinking a lot more. And so I found myself turning to alcohol. And when I was 30, we happened to go overseas for the first time. We went to Prague. It's amazing. My family is half Czechoslovakian, so I wanted to go. If I like left the country for the first time, I wanted to go see Prague and see where my, you know, half of my family came from. And while I was there, I discovered cider. And I've never drank beer. I've always been a wine girl, not really into liquor, but I discovered cider for the first time. Well, cider is pretty much like beer, but it just has a lot more sugar. And I thought it was so good. And at that time also, Not Your Father's root beer had come out, and like Not Your Father's cream soda, and like all these other like malted beverages that are just really bad for you. And I thought they were delicious. And so I found myself gaining weight very quickly, because when I was just feeling kind of stressed or kind of low, it was very easy to grab, you know, a bottle or a can, and then another one. And next thing I know, I had like 2 or 3 drinks in, very sugary, very carb heavy. And that's how I ended up gaining between 30 and 40 pounds. And I knew it. Y'all, I knew it was happening to me. I could feel it in my clothes. And I'd be like, no, I'll just like, it's me when he's like 5 pounds. And I would try to not go shopping. So I was like, no, I'm not going to go up a size. And it got really, really bad. And I was just miserable. miserable all the time because I was making these really bad choices. I was putting like all of this negativity into my body, and I was isolating myself from my friends and family because I was so ashamed. Well, I was headed down that path, and I happened to work with a couple of women who were turning 40. And they decided for their 40th birthday that they wanted to do what's called a Tough Mudder. And a Tough Mudder is like this obstacle course through the mud. It's like a military style obstacle course. It's a race. And it's like a mud pit after mud pit. And there's like barbed wire, and you gotta carry people and climb up walls. It's insane. It's insane. It's also a lot of fun. So we decided that we wanted to like feel young, right? Like we still had it. So we were going to do this all female Tough Mudder team. And so I remember it was October 1st of 2016. So almost 5 years ago. And that's the first day I was like, that's the day I'm going to start training. The Tough Mudder was going to be in March of the next year, 2017. And I was going to start training October 1st, 2016. I was like, I'm going to start with like 30 minutes each day. 30 minutes each day, I'm going to do like a workout. And I did. And I got really fit. Even by December, I saw a noticeable difference, not only in my body, but also just in like my happiness. And I knew it was working because I remember like in December, 60 days later, someone was like, you look like you're just glowing. And people were like, man, you lost a lot of weight. Like, man, you look good. But this one friend, she's like, you look like you're just glowing. And that's when I knew like I was starting to feel better. And so I stuck with it. And I decided that through that process, even though I was doing like some weight training, and y'all, like when we first started, like I like printed out this plan of like how to train for a Tough Mudder in 12 weeks, whatever. So like one of those things was like doing pull-ups. So in our office building, there's a gym down in the basement, and I would go at lunch. And I'd go down the gym and I tried to do pull-ups, and I couldn't do any pull-ups. So I just like dropped my body down from the bar. And I kid you not, for like 3 weeks, I was like walking around with my arms like kind of like out because I could not put them down because I had torn my muscles in my arms. I kid you not, like I had to walk around like this and like trying to go through doors. It hurt way too much. So don't do that. Do not grab a pull-up bar and drop your body down because you will walk like this for several weeks. Okay, that's a side tip. But that's what I did because I didn't know any better. And eventually, like I got like really excited about running. Like I really didn't like the pull-ups, I didn't like push-ups, I didn't like the weights. And I even tried some dance, but I found that running and even walking, but running was like a really, really good outlet for me because I could do it by myself. I didn't like running with other people. I could listen to music and kind of like zone out into my own space. I could walk when I felt tired and still feel like I was being really active. And then it also gave me a goal to work toward. So if you're the kind of person that needs a goal that they want to work toward, running is awesome because then you can also work your way up to a mile. Like in the very beginning, I couldn't even like run in my mailbox. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Like running to my mailbox. And so I got to the point where I could start running. I'd be like, okay, like I can run a quarter mile without stopping. And eventually I was like, okay, I can run a mile and then 2 miles. And I started working my way up and also like allowing myself walk breaks, listening to music or stretching. And I would be like really kind to myself, knowing that like I could set a new goal and then try to break that goal. And then once I could make my distance goal, I could also make my time goal. So, okay, I can run a mile now. Awesome. It takes me like a million years to run a mile. 20 minutes. It takes like 20 minutes to run a mile. Fine. I ran it. In the beginning, I could not even come close to that. The first milestone was like, yes, I I can run a mile without stopping. And then it was like, okay, how fast can I run a mile? And that took a few more weeks. And then you try to break that. So if you're a goal-oriented person, I would say walking and running is so good. The best benefit though, and why I still try to walk and run, especially when I'm stressed out, is because it releases endorphins in your body. So like, it's just like this natural release of being outside, walking or running and moving your body and being by yourself is so therapeutic for me. And I know other walkers or runners can relate to this. There's just something about like being outside, listening to music, and it's such a mood booster. And I became addicted to that. Like I would carve out my work schedule, my like dinners with friends around walking and running because it was such a benefit to me. I just felt better. And then I got into like I ran some half marathons and I got it like into races, but it wasn't even about like marathon running. It was just really about my mental health. That's where all this started. Because I felt like a garbage person. I just felt so overwhelmed, so stressed. And this was like my way of releasing that in like a really safe space. And it had all the other benefits too. Like I could fit into my clothes again. That was nice. So I would say that became sort of like my lifestyle, like a walking and running. And I started to just be like really conscious of what I ate. I will say that if you start working out or training like I was doing for the Tough Mudder, I felt like I needed to live in my kitchen because I was eating all the time. I was still losing weight, but if you are working out that much, like 1 or 2 hours every single day, you need to eat a lot of snacks. Like I had to eat so many snacks, and I would like go to the grocery store, go run errands, and at any time I had like my snack bag because I was like eating nuts and fruit and carrots like all the time, just like trying to keep up with my energy. So I will say that is something to keep in mind if you start working out more. I'm not there now. I don't have to carry around a snack bag. I still run and I still walk, but the other thing that I tried kind of years later, 2019, so a couple of years ago, for the first time, I tried fasting. Now, if you have an eating disorder, body dysmorphia, fasting is probably not right for you. And I will say, regardless of where you are in your health journey, you should absolutely talk to your physician, your doctor, a professional before you try fasting. So at the time, intermittent fasting was something that was sort of like getting talked about. And I was sort of curious, I didn't know what it was. And I didn't try intermittent fasting. Josh, who you heard from last week, he still practices intermittent fasting, and he was doing it before I was doing it. And and if you remember, he was primal and then paleo and then keto, and he lost 50 plus pounds going through this whole journey. I'm not that extreme. I still like pizza and I still like carbs. But I will say I tried fasting a couple of years ago. And so for those of you who are like, oh my God, I could never do fasting, I will tell you this. The very first time I did it, it was January 1st of 2019. And so it was like at the beginning of the month. And if you remember, in 2016, I started my exercise journey on October 1st. And I also started with other people. So if you're listening to this and you are thinking about starting some sort of like physical health or mental health journey, science tells us that we will stick with it if we start on the first of something, the first of the month, the first day of the week, the first day of the year. There's something about in our brains where we can like start on the first. Okay, that's number one. So we're more likely to stick with it if we start on the first. We're also more likely to stick with it if we start together. So if you remember, I started with a group of girlfriends that I work with, and we were going to do this Tough Mudder together. And you hear all the time about like your workout partner, your accountability partner. That's real. that's real. To have someone that you know is also doing the same thing. So what I would do in the very beginning is I would take a picture of my shoes before I would go out and run. I'd be like, hey, I'm about to go run. Or like, hey, like this is the trail I'm about to do, just to like show them like, hey, I'm doing this. And then they would do the same thing. They would like take a picture of their shoes or whatever, like, hey, I'm doing it too. You know, it's like our way of like keeping each other accountable. And it's so much easier if you start on the first and you start together and you have that level of accountability. So when I started fasting for the first time, I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And I ended up doing it unintentionally for 10 days. I was like, I don't even know how far I can go. But I did not eat food for 10 days the first time that I did this. And at first I was like, well, I'll go like 3 days. Well, what happens when you fast, for me and for a lot of people, is that once you get past the 2-day mark, and definitely by the 3-day mark, your body sort of adjusts. So that first day is usually like, you can handle it. The second day, you feel like you want to murder someone because you are starving. You notice your hunger much more in the second day. And the third day, usually at some point, your body starts to like, okay, I get it. And then by the fourth and fifth day, it's kind of like mixed results. So I just kept, because I'm such like a goal-oriented person, I was like, well, I'll just go another day. I'll just go another day. I'll just go another day. And what happens when you fast is time slowed down. So I'm usually like a really like fast-paced person. I noticed that I spoke slower, I moved slower, partly because I didn't have as much energy, but also I had the mental clarity, and that's number 2. I had so much more mental clarity and patience from fasting. And Josh talked about this last week, is that when he does intermittent fasting, because he notices that so much of our energy when we eat goes to digesting our food. And so once you eat a breakfast or a lunch or a dinner, you might notice, especially in the afternoon after you've eaten lunch, you might feel more tired. And that's because so much of your body's energy is focused on digesting your food. If it's down in your gut, then it's not, your energy isn't up here with your mental clarity. And so when your body doesn't have to focus its energy on processing your food, there's so much more capacity to think and analyze and focus. And so that's exactly what happened to me, is I had like mental clarity, like beyond what I can imagine. Like I felt like my vocabulary, like I was pulling out vocabulary from like 20 years ago on my SATs. I was like, oh, look how smart I sound now. Like I'm using like these, 4-syllable words that I normally wouldn't use. And I could just, my thoughts came to me so much quicker. And I just really felt on top of my game. And the third thing that I noticed is that I lost a few pounds. I think the first time I fasted, I lost in total 7 pounds. And then you gained some of that back. So maybe I lost like a net of 4 pounds. It's not as much. Some people lose like a lot more. It just kind of depends on your body and its response. But what I noticed is that your body sort of gets used to it. Like your body learns how to function without food. And there are some people, y'all, like I started researching this. There's some people that have fasted for up to 40 days. I am not recommending that. I'm not even recommending that you do what I did and fast for 10 days. I'm just letting you know about my experience, and that it is something that I enjoy doing. And it is something that I enjoyed so much the first time that every year, my ritual is now to start off that calendar year with a 10-day fast. And the reason why I do that is because it helps me reset. I get a much deeper spiritual connection. I feel like I'm more focused. I can focus on life. I can sort of like set my plan for the year, and I can de-stress. That's my number one commitment to myself, is that I start off every year with a fast. Some people do it more often than that. People maybe fast like every 4 months, every 6 months for different periods of time. That's what I choose. Some people fast every day. They have intermittent fasting. This is what I choose to do. I just wanted to share that. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer your questions. The second thing that I do is, as much as I can, every morning, I go for a walk outside. And even if it's only for 15 or 20 minutes, I hope it's for an hour. It's hardly ever an hour. It's usually like 15 or 20 minutes, because I drink my coffee and I listen to music. Sometimes I listen to a podcast. I always do it by myself. And I have noticed that my mood, my mental clarity is so much better when I have figured out how to do that, time. And to some extent, I practice intermittent fasting and I have a more restricted diet, but not nearly like what Josh talked about last week. So he talked about sort of like his restrictions and what he does. And I just wanted to share with you sort of like my model, not as a recommendation. I think everyone sort of finds what works for them. Some people go vegan. Some people are keto. Some people only eat meat, and everyone has sort of like what works for them. I will say, as you start to think about, if you are in that place where I was on my 30th birthday and I was drinking way too much, I felt tired. I felt anxious. I felt depressed. I wanted to be alone and I wanted to close myself off. It never occurred to me, because I wasn't going for 20-minute walks in the morning. And that's how simple as it was. It never occurred to me that I just needed to feel like I wanted to be a part of a group of people who are working toward a goal, right? I found a group of women and we were all kind of doing something together and empowering each other. And that sense of belonging and that sense of like, okay, if I'm going to be alone, I'm going to walk alone and also work on my body and my mental health. So I think if you are feeling if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling in a low place, I would encourage you to also look at what you can do with your physical body to help your mental health, because there is that connection between your gut health and your mental health. And I'm not saying that you need to be a certain weight, a certain size, a certain body fat. I think you can be perfectly happy and healthy in all sorts of shapes and sizes. I would encourage you, though, to figure out how you can find a balance of being active and connecting your physical body to your mental health. So I just wanted, and like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, but I think it was important, after coming from Josh's story last week, to also share with you sort of my experience and what I've adapted to. And I'm still figuring out too. Like, I'm still, year over year, we've made changes happen in our life and we have to adjust. And so also understanding that it's a spectrum, right? Like, we're always going to be making changes and adapting to our environment. So with that, I will see what questions you might have for tonight.
Thank you, Lindsay. I know I said this last week, so those of you that were here last week, I'll say it again. It's kind of crazy, the overlap between what you put in your body and the activity that you're giving your body and how you're feeling mentally, how you're feeling spiritually, physically. And so I know that's something that's hard for all of us, or a lot of us are going through it like 90% of the time. Exercise and eating right really, really helps with that. I know sometimes it can be really difficult to see the importance of eating healthy, the importance of staying active, but I think once you experience the benefits from it yourself, it's kind of hard to go back. And I'm in no way an exercise pro or really good at eating healthy. That's definitely not my strong point, but I do know how intense the impacts can be and how good those are. So this is so important, Lindsay. And for those of you that are watching, I tried to elicit some conversation in the chat, and I wasn't able to get too much. But I just wanted to let you guys know, if you have questions about healthy eating, about exercise, about how your body and mind overlap and how important it is to know the relationship between those two, I know Lindsay's available to chat. I know I am as well. Your coach would be happy to talk to you about that because I know a little bit something as well. So yeah, this is important, guys. And just so you know, all of you guys know, we're trying to incorporate more physical activity at Immerse, trying to give you guys the opportunity to work your body in a positive way. So like last weekend we went on a canoe trip. I know that doesn't feel like you're sitting down, but the arm workout that goes into paddling a canoe, you just have no idea. And that's good for you. And I think we're going to be doing some hiking, especially when the weather cools off, like today, would be a great day to go out and go for a walk. If you feel like you need more time being active, tell your coach. Maybe your coach can work that into your plan with you and take a walk with you for maybe 20 minutes twice a week. I don't know. You can be creative with it. There are a lot of different ways to do that. We're also trying to have healthier food options for lunch at the OC. So we love to have the snacks around, but we're really taking a look at the menu and what we're cooking and what's available to eat at the OC. So we're trying to help you guys in that aspect as well. Just having some healthy stuff. So those are my thoughts. I don't see any questions in the chat. I think we've got 3 people with us. Lindsay, any closing thoughts?
No, we're gonna move into like, I think, cooking techniques and talking about like just different dishes and more of like in the kitchen next week. So if you're interested in different like cooking styles or learning about cooking and like that, I think we're gonna head starting next week.
Yes, I know we have so many young adults that love to cook, so I'm looking forward to that personally, and I know of many others that will as well. So thank you, Lindsay. I think that'll wrap us up for the night. I'm not seeing any action in the chat as of right now. So if you're good, I will go ahead and close us out. Thanks for being with us, Lindsay, so much. And for those of you that got to tune in, thank you guys. And we will see you next week here at 5 p.m. Be safe, everyone. Bye.